There's one point I wanted to jump onto before we wrap is a lot of organizations are finding themselves in very overcrowded market spaces at the moment. So having an inbound strategy that differentiates you in amongst your competitors must be a really important topic. What advice do you guys have for the audience in that respect?
Yeah, I don't know that I'd always say that you need to think about a differentiated strategy. I think you've got to do what the right thing is for your customer. And I think that often the differentiation will come on the delivery and the way that, you know, the content and the way that you then present it. I'm interested actually that all of you guys have gravitated towards events in that previous question, because yes, it plays an important part of the mix, but I just look at my behaviour as a CMO, and I just don't go to that many events. I mean, I just don't have the time to do it. And so, you know, I think about all of those different elements of inbound and just behaviour patterns of target audiences. And I think it's changing. And I think that one of the biggest things that we can do as leaders is to make sure that the jobs that we had in our teams previously are getting updated in terms of the mandate of what we need to deliver in terms of even as broad as the marketing mix, but then specifically the way that we then go and do our inbound activities, and make sure that that maps to the personas and the people that we're trying to target. And so whilst I wouldn't look at my competitor and think, okay, they're doing these, you know, this mix of things and that's right or that's wrong. What I try and look at is what actually makes sense for the customer, and how do I make sure that the prospect, and how do I make sure that the messages I want to land with them, hitting them at the right time in the format that actually will instigate the next step on the journey.
And in a way that's going to be memorable to them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree with that. So Gartner talk a lot around the different types of salesperson, and I think it works for the marketing element as well. So there's a giver, which is just here, have all the information. There's taker, which is tell me what you want to know. And then, as you said, there's sense. Yeah. So help me make sense of all the information that I have. And I think you're right. It's our role to do that and do that well for them.
I mean, from a very, very sort of practical perspective in terms of, you know, that kind of white space stuff we talked about right at the beginning, and now a lot of the time we try and identify, you've got a topic that you are authoritative of on your own, but actually it's how is the customer talking about that. So often we see white papers generated with internal terminology, and you know that then never gets found via SEO, let alone PPC, you know, paid for stuff, because no one's searching for that particular term. Being able to identify customer needs and keywords and the things they're talking about and the way they're talking about it, not only buying that through media, but also adapting your content to resonate with that audience. Just as simple as changing a couple of phrases or approaches to the way you think is one of the things that delivers the best results for the way we work, because otherwise you are stuck in that kind of very inward looking, this is how we talk about this thing, how we call it, and if you never externalize that to what the customer needs, then you're lost in that space.
I'd also say sometimes I don't want a differentiated strategy from my competitor. Because if I can see that they're putting out a load of bump you were talking about on LinkedIn before that I wholly disagree with, or that I want to have an opinion on, they're targeting a certain person of that. And if I've got a contrary view, or I want to put a message out that really resonates with them, then actually really understanding what your competitor's strategy is probably more important to me. So I think the bit that I would want to be differentiated on most is the understanding of where people are and the analytics behind where it all sits along that journey, so that I could then move them through that prospect journey in the way that I felt was right.
The only other thing I say on differentiation though, so if for example you have 4 companies in the same space, if you look at the way they describe themselves on their website, for example, take away the names, can you actually work out which companies? Yeah. So that I would say the messaging is really important. That's where you should be differentiating yourself.